And all I've heard all afternoon is sirens. It's something that people look forward to most of their lives, to cross that finish line, and it's an extremely tragic event.
We just heard that large sound go off.
There were a lot of people on the ground.
The explosion went off near the finish line. Very tragic.
More than 100 wounded and at least 3 dead, including an 8-year-old boy. The latest tally in that horrific bomb attack at today's Boston Marathon. Good evening, I'm Judy Maggio. Officials in Boston warn the number of dead could rise. More than 140 are said to have been hurt. Doctors have reportedly removed ball bearings from victims, suggesting the bombs were designed for maximum damage to victims. Meantime, hours after the 2 explosions ripped through spectators near the finish line, no suspects are in custody. No one has claimed responsibility. The FBI has taken charge, and the U.S. Joint Terrorism Task Force is involved in this case. More than 200 runners from here in Central Texas signed up to run the Boston Marathon. Tonight, we hear from a woman from Austin who was just feet away from one of the blasts. KITV's Angel Covarrubias joins us now from the newsroom. Angel, I'm sure this is a day these folks will never forget.
That's right, Judy. I spent the majority of the day on the phone talking and texting to folks from Austin attending the marathon. And shock and panic doesn't begin to describe what they felt. Some of the folks I spoke to on the phone were shaken up.
To be honest, although I had hoped nothing like this would happen, it does make perfect sense if someone wanted to attack an event with a large number of people.
Katie Carmona was walking with a friend towards the finish line. Their husbands had just finished the race, running for a charity here in Central Texas called Champions for Children. This is Katie's husband, Paul, as he walked across the finish line minutes before the first blast.
As we were walking, all of a sudden there was an explosion directly in front of us. She and I both kind of looked down when it happened because we didn't see the flames that you see in the photographs. We just saw the black smoke. I was so close to it and it was so loud, my ears were ringing. I turned to run and a woman came to me, or looked at me and said, I'm bleeding.
She immediately helped the woman. Katie had also been hit by debris. They both ran, headed towards the nearest intersection to get away.
And that's when the second explosion occurred, right before I made it to the corner. And I turned the corner and ran. I was very fortunate. And I'll probably think about that more and more.
We were also able to speak to 2 members of 2 other local groups of runners, Alicia Sandcar from Gilbert's Gazelles and Warren Brown with the Rogue Runners.
I was making sure all the gazelles were accounted for.
As far as I know, everybody seems to be okay.
Warren Brown was on the street about 3 blocks away when he heard that first explosion.
It wasn't incredibly loud. I guess that's why I didn't think the worst. But yeah, I mean, once I found out, I just, I couldn't believe it.
Now, folks, we are still trying to get answers on whether any of the injured or dead are Texans. As we've mentioned, more than 200 Central Texans were attending the marathon that will be forever marked in 2013 as an attack on our nation. Reporting live in the newsroom, Angel Covarrubias, KITV News.
Indeed it was, Angel. The American Red Cross says it is meeting the needs of victims thanks to blood donors. In a statement, the Red Cross says there is enough blood to meet demand in Boston. The organization also set up a website for victims and loved ones to get in touch. For a link to that and for a link to how you can get involved and help out, simply head to our website, KITV.com. Security around big public events in Austin is now certainly on everyone's mind. Tonight, local authorities are on high alert, even though there is no specific threat directed toward the Austin area. KITV's Christy Post is live from the Austin Police Department, where Chief Acevedo is reacting to today's attack. Christy?
Well, Judy, Chief Art Acevedo released a statement reminding people to be vigilant and report any suspicious activity. He also is urging businesses tonight to review their suspicious package or their bomb threat procedures with all their employees. And we talked to the Austin Marathon today, who was doing just that. John Conley has been directing the Austin Marathon for nearly 2 decades. He says the Boston terror attack is a worst nightmare scenario for a large event.
I'm just sick about it, and my heart, all of our prayers go out to those guys. They're all personal friends of ours.
But he says from watching, he can tell race organizers were prepared.
You could tell looking at the video today that his team had their assets in the right place. They had very, very quick response.
And Conley says if an attack happened in Austin, they too would have an emergency response plan. On top of it, UMC Brackenridge is in close proximity.
Some of the more obvious things we do are covering garbage cans along our finish line area. We operate a command center out of Austin Travis County EMS's mobile command center. We color code our staff so we can immediately identify who is medical, who is management.
Last week's Capitol 10,000 race showed the plan in action when a man suffered from cardiac arrest.
Emergency response was there within 7 seconds. And that was not by accident, that was not by sheer luck. That was through the pre-positioning of medical assets.
As information continues to flow in, Conley will review Austin's plan. And when the time comes, talk to his network of Boston officials to see what worked and what didn't.
You're in good hands in this city. Public safety is taken very seriously.
Governor Rick Perry also spoke out about the attack. He says our thoughts and prayers are with those injured in the explosions, along with our first responders who braved danger to get the wounded out for safety. For now, we're live in downtown Austin. Christy Post, KITV News.
Thank you, Christy. Organizers of other races across the state are also making some adjustments. The BPMS 150 in Houston is reportedly upgrading its security plan, and closer to home officials say they are prepared to tweak security at the Army Marathon near Fort Hood. That's this Sunday. Well, the next step in Boston is finding out who carried out these attacks. Investigators will pore over all the available evidence, including the remains of the deadly explosives. Joining me now in the studio is Steve Wolf. He's an expert in explosives. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Judy.
First of all, what useful information can these investigators glean from what's left of these bombs?
Well, they'd like to find out what they're made out of, and they'll determine that from collecting pieces and identifying them. That may give them some leads as to where the materials came from.
Right.
And then they'll also be trying to figure out what the technique for assembling the bomb was, because that may be a signature of a particular organization, or it may help tie the dots together with other bombings, with bombs that may be made in a similar way.
Now, we mentioned at the top of the show that there are ball bearings being recovered for some of the injured people in the hospital. What does that tell us?
Well, it's a readily available form of shrapnel. You can get ball bearings at any industrial supply house. You can get them from reloading supplies. You can get them out of shotgun shells. So it's really just using a round piece of metal as a projectile to hurt people. And,
well, from what you've seen so far, what do you think, these detonations were what, seconds apart? Do you think this is the work of an amateur? Or do you think this is the work of someone who's done this before, or is an expert in this field?
There's really no way to know if they've done it before. But I think timing them to go off very closely together would be something that would be in the interest of the terrorists, because when one goes off, people run away from it. They ran across the street, and the other one was waiting there for them. So I think it was a very deadly 1-2 combination. But it's very important to realize that this can happen anywhere. It was Boston today, it could be Austin tomorrow. Right. And there's really no way to know by looking at something whether it's a bomb. I mean, something might look as innocuous as a kid's toy that was left behind somewhere, but that could contain, 3 pounds of explosives, which would be more than enough to do the damage that we saw on the video clip.
So many ways to get those bombs where they shouldn't be.
Well, they're typically homemade,
yeah, and
it's simple chemistry. So yeah, it's really a matter of controlling people, not controlling access to any particular type of material.
Steve Wolf, explosives expert, thanks so much for your perspective tonight.
Thank you very much, Judy.
Another big story we're certainly following today, DWI fallout. Travis County District Attorney Rosemary Lindbergh is back at work after her weekend arrest. What she says about the growing calls for her to resign, plus flying on your dime. We follow the money and find out how much of your tax money is going to send lawmakers around the world. Plus, gone viral, the inspiring image from today's tragedy in Boston being shared around the world.
And I'm meteorologist Chicago Windler. Get ready for another round of morning clouds and fog, maybe even some patchy drizzle. I'll be tracking the latest for you coming up in your Sky Tracker 7 day.
And all I've heard all afternoon is sirens. It's something that people look forward to most of their lives, to cross that finish line, and it's an extremely tragic event.
We just heard that large sound go off.
There were a lot of people on the ground.
The explosion went off near the finish line. Very tragic.
Two big explosions, large plumes of dust, smoke, glass. Obviously everybody was going crazy. At first it almost sounded like a cannon blast, but it felt so strong it literally almost blew my hat off.
They were banged up bad. Severe lacerations, amputees, a lot of shrapnel. You know, they were pretty big explosions.